you may already know this, but my name is Jonathan, and I'm a community market leader with Trexler Homes based in Mooresville, North Carolina. I like to clarify and address different elements and parts of real estate transactions as my way to serve, not sell, in my community. And today I want to take a closer look at appraisals, more specifically appraisal gaps, what that means, and what to do in the case that one occurs. My wife Kelsey actually saw someone the other day in one of her mom groups on Facebook asking people's opinion about the possibility of a gap between what they had contractually agreed upon to pay for this home and an appraisal when it came back. In this particular market, it can definitely come up, especially when offering more than or over the asking price for a piece of property. But there's more to this than initially meets the eye, and while others in the real estate business or those more seasoned and familiar with real estate transactions may take advantage of our knowledge and experience, even we can't always keep our cool or act like an appraisal gap won't pose at least somewhat of an issue. To start on a level playing field, when a buyer is financing a home through a bank or a lender, the bank almost always is going to want to have an appraisal done on the home or the property being purchased by a professional that puts a value on homes for a living, an appraiser. They do this to cover themselves because while you may not mind or may not know that the home that you're purchasing is not worth the amount of money that is being asked for it or agreed upon, they're not going to be underwater on the loan. At least not initially or intentionally. So in some cases, the appraisal can come back lower, but it can also come back higher. Here lately, we're seeing it more frequently coming in lower. Now, a few important things to note when looking at an appraisal. One, appraisals are performed by humans, and no two are alike. They are professional opinions and vary from one appraiser to the next. They are derived and or based on historical values of similar and like properties in the surrounding area to the subject property. 2, an appraisal today may not come to the same value, even if done by the same person, as soon as 30 days from now, as the value of the property changes frequently and regularly. 3, in a market like we have today, where inventory is and has been limited, like properties are not easy to come by, and one appraiser may use examples to show their concluded value that another appraiser did not. And 4, an appraisal is most certainly not absolute and should not be looked at as if it is. So knowing that, where does that leave us? Well, for starters, I'm doing this video because what I have heard a lot of, and some of the comments Kelsey was reading to me, provides opinions and points of view that are misguided and in many cases flat out wrong. An appraisal gap is not always a deal killer or the end of the world, and so long as you're aware of the possibility of occurring, it shouldn't be a big deal if it comes up. Part of my issue with the post that Kelsey told me about was the fact that all of these people that actually had next to zero information were scaring this poor lady to death. And I don't mean poor like she has no money. I mean poor like she is vulnerable enough in the middle of making one of the biggest purchases of her family's life and left worrying and wondering about an appraisal. And while no address was provided, the transaction being discussed was moving right along. They had offered $15,000 over the asking price and were concerned. For all we know, it could have been listed for $15,000 less than the true market value. In a normal market, people don't normally come in so hot. But when they do, they want it. Same applies here. It's just happening more frequently. Even still, this is a foreign territory. And all of these people that have no business saying a word or telling her to walk away, it isn't worth it. If there's a gap, it's a ripoff. If they still buy it, they overpaid. Blah, blah, blah. That's nonsense. Those people don't have enough information to know that. But if she let all that doubt cause her and her family to walk away, it could cost them their earnest money and or their due diligence funds. Earnest money and due diligence I cover in another video you should take a look at. The other side of my issue with this is that their realtor, and surely they had a realtor since they clearly do not buy and sell property every day and a realtor cost a buyer nothing, should have settled their stomach about the possibility of an appraisal gap before they ever submitted their offer. The real fact is that had they offered asking price and it had been accepted, there could have still been a gap in purchase or offer price and the appraised value. That should have been covered with them before they made the offer, especially one for over asking price, which leads me to my last point. An appraisal for sure is important, and you want it to show the property in question has the value you've agreed upon to purchase. However, like I said earlier, if it doesn't, then it isn't the end of the world. In fact, you have a few different paths to remedy the situation. The first of which, the hardest, get a different appraiser out there, which can also require changing who the financing is going through. This is a nightmare. The second is ask the seller to negotiate with you and lower the price. I rarely agree with this one either because it can kill the deal, and keep in mind the buyer's already agreed on the offer price. And what if the appraisal came in higher and the seller asked the buyer to pay for more? It just doesn't make sense. The last one, the buyer can close the gap with cash. Now, some people are going to say, we don't have the cash to just close the gap. Or why would I want to do that if it isn't worth that to begin with? And I would contest that they should have covered that with their realtor before the offer was ever made. One other really important fact to note is that once the home in question closes, it is then set the new market value. Yeah, that's right. Now it is closed, appraisal or not, the new market value for that home has been set once it has sold. So now that higher value is used to determine the value of other homes like it when they're appraised. That means it's no longer overpriced like the naysayers earlier were chirping. Important to keep that in mind. I'm not advocating for you to go out and grossly overspend on a house because an appraisal is no big deal. But I am saying if you want something in this market, be ready to spend on it like you want it. And don't let someone tell you that you're overspending unless they're keenly aware of what they're talking about. Chances are they've been losing bid after bid after bid, and they're going to be eaten alive with higher interest rates and less house for their money. Just watch. So if you enjoyed this video and found it useful, please hit those like and subscribe buttons. And keep watching for new content about real estate, the Lake Norman community, or the misadventures of my nutty family. Again, I'm Jonathan Trexler, Community Market Leader with Trexler Homes. Thanks for watching.